Imagine men washing the dishes. Woman.
Anyway, I'm not just an author from the Philippines. I am the Southeast Asian editor of Global Voices. So I first attended the summit in New Delhi in 2006. So for this morning, I'd like to talk about citizen media in Southeast Asia. So Southeast Asia is famous for its global cities like Singapore, Bangkok, and Kuala Lumpur. And we're even more famous because of our exotic islands like Bali, Phuket, and Boracay. And recently we grabbed the world's headlines because of the European visit of Nobel Peace Prize winner Aung San Suu Kyi. But this morning, I'd like to talk about citizen media in Southeast Asia. So, I'd like you to remember four terms or four names when we talk about citizen media stories which grabbed attention in 2011 and this year. And that is Bersi, Thai Flag, Les Majeste, and Prita Mulyasari. So these are the four terms which I'd like you to remember when we talk about citizen media in Southeast Asia. Let's talk first about Bersi. Bersi means clean in the local language of Malaysia, Bahasa. In many ways, Bersi is our Tahrir Square. Bersi is an electoral reform movement in Malaysia. And why is it significant? It started out as an electoral reform movement, and the demands are really simple, and people really wanted to put forward reasonable demands to the government. But the government exaggerated, they violently dispersed a Bersi crowd, and Bersi became popular and widespread because of social media. Through social media, Bersi reached a wider audience, especially young apolitical citizens. And through Bersi hashtag, it became a venue for interaction and discussion. So Bersi now, actually last April, they mobilized tens of thousands of people in the streets. It was the biggest political rally in Malaysia. And Bersi is now not just an electoral reform movement, but a political opposition movement. So these are the four terms: Bersi, Thai Flag, Prita Mulyasari, and Les Majeste. And that's Bersi, it means clean. And next, this is one of the pictures which became popular in the Bersi rally. A grandmother who participated in the Bersi crowd, and then after the violent dispersal, it raised consciousness of the people about the meaning of Bersi. Bersi, for me, is the symbol of many successful political initiatives in the region which successfully maximize social media tools. So Bersi is the symbol of the many initiatives in the region. Next. For example, similar to Bersi, there is a mapping initiative in Cambodia to monitor land evictions. Because of this simple mapping initiative, it inspired communities to barricade their towns and to protect their communities. So they organized an avatar protest, next, to protect their forest lands. And then recently in Myanmar, next, of all places, there was a big protest in Myanmar. There was a power shortage in different urban centers in Myanmar. They posted pictures on Facebook. Believe it or not, Facebook is accessible in Myanmar. And because of this, the protest spread to many urban centers. So this is an example of Bersi-like initiatives in the region. Another aspect which I'd like to bring is that many times people use social media not for political purposes. And I'd like to bring attention on how citizens are using social media tools for environment protection. Our region is disaster prone. We are in the Pacific Ring of Fire. We eat strong typhoons, earthquakes, and volcanic eruptions for breakfast in our region. So, and environment is a common thing. We always tweet or we always talk about the environment. It's cloudy, it's sunny. But in our region, when there is always disaster, netizens use social media tools to talk about these disasters. And they develop social media tools, disaster management tools, to talk about these things. But what happens when people use these social media tools, at first for innocently, but later on, these issues become political? I'd like to talk about the next issue, it is Thai Flag. how Thai netizens use that hashtag. First, to monitor floods, to share people about flood stories, to report about flood shelters. But later on, they use this hashtag to complain against the ineptitude of government officials, inefficiency in the preparation during flood disasters. Next, they use this hashtag to develop tools on how to help people cope with the flooding disaster. Next, they expose some of the inconsistencies of mainstream media. For example, here is a reporter. If you are a viewer, TV viewer, a reporter will report about the extent of flooding in Bangkok. But if you see the whole picture, it's not really a big flooding in the city. So here is how netizens are helping expose some of the inconsistencies in our reports. Next, in Singapore, they use Singapore flood hashtag, but the government said, no, it's not flood, it's just funding. So it's similar in many countries. In the Philippines, there was an earthquake, there was big flooding. We use these social media tools to report about the environment. But what happens when there is a critical mass of people who use these tools, not just to report about the environment, but also for political purposes? And then I want you to remember the name Prita. These are social media initiatives in the region. She was complaining against bad hospital service. She emailed a friend, and she was filed with online defamation. And what people did was that they donated coins to help the legal case of Prita Mulyasari. And this is another example of citizen media initiatives in our region. There was a mass planking event in the Philippines as a form of protest because the government banned planking because people use it as a form of protest. But when people use planking in their online profiles, it became popular in our country. And then there was a complaint against curry smell in Singapore for new immigrants. So Singaporeans use the social media to prove that Singaporeans love curry. Next, this is a popular hashtag in Thailand election last year. What is that meaning? The meaning of it is, he is only good at talking. He is the prime minister. He lost in the election. And then I want you to remember Free Jew, because there is a less majestic case in Thailand. Less majestic. If you insult the king, you will be jailed. You will be prosecuted in the court. And Jew, she didn't post a comment. She is just the moderator of a website, and she was charged with less majestic. And then there are several 100,000 black websites in Thailand. And of course, the case of Vietnam, where bloggers are facing persecution. Next, in Myanmar, a blogger was jailed for 20 years for writing against the government. So, in my observation, in the case of Vietnam and Myanmar, there is internet freedom in many parts of our region. You're free to criticize if it's another country. If you're in Vietnam, you're free to criticize China. You're free to embarrass yourself. You're free to worship entertainment stars. You're free to praise the royal family in Thailand. You're free to cheer for the sports events, and you're free to promote charity. And our lessons, citizen media, some observations, we have poor IT infrastructure in the region, especially in poor countries like Philippines, Cambodia, and Laos. But it didn't stop the rise of social media initiatives in the region. It didn't stop strong social media campaigns, which helped in the raising of political awareness of our netizens. Next, censorship starts with high costs, especially in Myanmar. You are free to access internet in many places of Myanmar, but it's expensive. Next, there should be online and offline mix. There is Occupy Singapore, but nobody came in Singapore. So it's not enough that you announce it online. There should be offline components as well. And next, there are more and more politicians promoting transparency. They have Twitter, they have Facebook, they have blogs. But I think, in my observation, it's not enough that they have online presence. What if the tactic of the government is to drown the online sphere with too much trivial information so that we will be distracted with the more essential issues? So I hope that's lessons for the region, that It is not enough that politicians use social media. There should be interaction and there should be social media initiatives from netizens themselves. And thank you very much. In behalf of Southeast Asia, a pleasant morning to all.